Right, this is Lindsay Fannerstill and my LP 4.1 assignment. I'm turning it into National American University with Professor Angela Jones. We're going to be talking about relationships in an organization. We're going to be focusing on the controlling aspect, but I wanted just to give a brief overview of all of the relationships that do make up an organization. In order to make an organization successful, there's many moving parts and they all must support each other. As you can see in this diagram, there's planning, leading, organizing, and controlling. Planning is when the organization sets the direction. They decide where they want to go and the best way for them to get there. This is kind of like their goals, their mission statement, their visions, that type of thing. Organizing, that's when an organization actually creates the structure of how they will achieve their goals. Everything that they are planning to do it, they need to organize it and figure out how to accomplish their needs and their wants. Leading, that's actually doing it. That's when you assemble your teams, you execute the plans, you actually make the progress of organizing and planning. And there's also controlling, and that's when they actually ensure the results of the leading, organizing, and planning. It's when you get to measure your performance, and it's when you get to react to the findings. So we're going to be talking or focusing on the controlling aspect, but I just wanted to give kind of a brief overview of the different relationships and how they all intertwine together. You can't have one without having the other be successful. You need all four, and you need to complete all four in order to have a successful company. So we're going to move on to talking about the controlling aspect and what organizational control really is. It's an important function of management. It's important because an organization finds out what is needed within all the functions of management. Organizational control checks the mistakes, and it tells management how new challenges can be met or faced. The success of the organization is impacted on how well management controls their performance. Organizational control is very important. It will give the management a measure of their current status, which is then comparable to the past statuses. Using the data, management is then able to organize the company into their ideal position for future success. Organizational control allows a company to accomplish their goals. It's the control process, and it's meant to implement organizational goals. Using organizational control, management will be able to identify and correct deviations from their plans. Immediate reactions will help reduce the difference in expected results versus the end results when achieving the organization's goals. It's a realization of standard of accuracy. So as the actual work is being regulated by the management, we're able to compare the given standard of the actual performance or we can compare the given standard to the actual performance. If the actual performance is not acceptable, management can then readjust the standard for a more achievable result, or at least figure out why the standards are not being met, what needs to change in order to have those standards met. It's also an efficient use of resources. Organizational control makes it possible to use human and physical resources efficiently. Physical waste can be tracked and properly managed, and employees are held responsible for their work hours versus their performance. You know how much money you're spending, how much time you're spending, and what you should be getting out of that as your result. Control also improves employee motivation. With work performance measurements, employees know their work is going to be evaluated and rewarded if it's satisfactory, whether it be a raise or a company outing or an award, whatever the reward might be. It's going to help motivate your employees. And it also ensures order and discipline. Controlling ensures order and discipline with resource and performance measurements. So undesirable activities like theft, corruption, and uncooperative attitudes are accounted for, and corrective actions can be taken. They'll understand what is expected of them, and if they're not doing something that's satisfactory, they know that they can be disciplined. So the control process can be broken into 4 simple steps. Step 1 is to establish performance and objectives. Step 2 is to measure the actual performance. Step 3 is to compare the actual performance with your objectives. And then step 4 is to take actions to correct or to praise your current status. And it's just going to keep going from step 1, 2, 3 to 4. And then it's going to start all over again with step number 1. One tool that can help you do this is going to be a balanced scorecard. So balanced scorecard is something that describes the cause and effect relationship of an organization's strategy. There's 4 areas of a balanced scorecard: the customer service, financial performance, innovation and learning, and internal processes. Using the balanced scorecard, management teams are then able to track and balance their key performance metrics. The measurements of each section can describe the cause-effect relationship between the section and the organization strategy. So let's examine each section of the balanced scorecard. To start with, we'll look at the customer perspective. It captures the ability of the organization to provide quality goods and services, how effective their delivery scheme is, and the overall customer service experience. Customer service measurements need to be specific and measurable factors. The internal business process is the mechanisms which performance expectations are achieved. These expectations are detailed operations that must be met to ensure customer satisfaction. It can be viewed as how the customer perceives the organization and the overall generalization of the business's reputation. Financial performance is the measurement that indicates the bottom line of the organization's strategy, implementation, and execution skills. This can be different for private versus public organizations, but in the end, the financial performance is measured against the ability to deliver the maximum value to their customers. Lastly, the innovation and learning process measures the parameters of the organization that they consider important against its competition. Improvements to existing products or the ability to introduce new products alongside with expansion capabilities are all different measurements of an organization's worthiness. Changes to an organization will require many new skills, capabilities, technologies, and designs that were not in place prior to the change. Learning to adapt and grow to the changes is a requirement for long-term survival. So overall, the primary function of the balanced scorecard is to control the organization's operations. The balanced scorecard can provide a basis for determining the effort amount for each section, creating a balance between the organization and the employee. Employees have the ability to understand the status and the goals of the organization, while the organization has the ability to take action and to correct and achieve the short-term goals. Many organizations rely mainly on the measurement of finances to determine success. Financial statuses can be considered the check of past performances, which allows managers to consider changes based on financial indicators. The use of a balanced scorecard allows the management to execute changes based on future performance objectives. A company that relies solely on financial indicators of the past can only see results when examining sales or market share. Ideally, companies should look at several performance factors, such as how improvements are to different areas can lead to changes in financial performance. So to recap, let's talk about the key points of an effective control system. It's going to support a relationship to the overall values and the strategies of the organization. The objectives are going to be understandable and measurable. It's going to be accepted by both employees and by managers. It's going to have balanced objectives, and it's going to have subjective data. Control allows for flexibility in changes in the plan. It supports or has a timeline of events and supportive of actions. It's going to make you get done what you want to get done. So I hope that you learned a little something. And my next slide is my references, which is also in the Word document submitted to D2L. Thank you.